All right. So do you want me to read just the letter? Or do you want me to read the answer as well?
Just go through and read the letter, and then we'll talk about it after. If there's any discrepancies.
Number 1, I have D.
Okay.
2, I have C. 3, I have C. 4, C. 5, C.
Yeah. I wondered on those ones. I was like, that's a lot of C's, but
just
glad. Yeah.
6, D. 7, D. 8, C. 9, A. 10 and 11, I have D. 12, I have B. 13, I have C. 14, I have C. 15, I have D. And 16, I have D. 17 and 18, I have
what
B.
did you have for 14, sorry?
14 is C.
Okay, 15?
15 is D. 16 is also D. 17, B is in boy. 18, B is in boy. 19, D, and 20,
A. Okay, so I got a few. First one was number 2. Yeah, how did you get number 2?
I think I got it straight from the textbook. Hang on, let me pull it up. I'm not even in the right class right now. Searching for it. What did you have for number 2?
So I put B, and what I did was they had showed a growth rate of 1.8% for the U.S. And so I figured that if they're growing at just under 2% per year, then it should have been a little over 50 years before it doubled. So that's why I put 70 years on there.
That makes sense. Hang on.
So, but if there was an answer in the book, that'd be great. I was looking for a specific answer, but I couldn't find one when I was reading it.
Right. The real GDP per person implied that it doubled about every... So what was it 35 years ago?
Wait, what? Oh, well, I don't know. And the thing that made it, the reason I did it that way is because at one point in the book it says that the growth rate may not necessarily have stayed consistent at that point, but it's just that that's kind of the average growth rate. So I'm not sure if we can figure out exactly what it was 35 years ago unless we kind of assume that there was a growth rate of 1.8%. So yeah, it'd be tough. So
I'm gonna try to find that. Right. That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna try to find that in the, because I did this a couple days ago. So I don't exactly remember where I got that from. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
Good.
All right, I think your logic is pretty sound for that.
Okay, I mean, but if you do have a point in the book, like I said, that'd be great because I just...
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to put an asterisk next to it and go back and find that because I'd like to be able to justify my answer, but I think your answer has a much better thought process than what I had. So.
Okay.
Alrighty, what else did you have?
Okay, so the next one that we got different was 8. I put A on 8, and you put C here, right?
C.
I figured this would be another book one, so this was one that I don't think I could find.
Oh, okay. This one I had in my notes, and it just says, because the prices are staying consistent, it doesn't show that they're becoming more scarce. If they were becoming more scarce, then the demand would stay consistent and the price would go up.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing that I have, I couldn't find anything in the book but I took it from the PowerPoint. What did it say here?
So it says, as a resource becomes scarcer, its market price rises, which increases the incentive to conserve it and develop alternatives. In the long run, living standards are determined by productivity. Oh, that's just a conclusion. But basically, I took that last sentence where it says it increases the incentive to conserve it. And the question is asking, our ability to conserve natural resources growing more rapidly because those prices are staying stable. That's just the way I thought about it. Because if we weren't conserving, then those prices would go up.
I get you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that was number 8, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I had just seen something in the book that they had mentioned. Wish I could find it now too. Let me get the book up just so we both have the book up.
Okay.
It said something about how natural resources are like running out or something, but it doesn't affect production or something. Which, hold on, let me get.
I think it would.
Yeah. Where is it at? Where is this? Okay, so it's under natural resources per worker. Oh, here's what it says. So it's in the last paragraph of natural resources per worker. It says, although natural resources can be important, they are not necessary for an economy to be highly productive in producing goods and services. So that's what why I had put that one.
Read that again.
So it's under the natural resources per worker. It says, although natural resources can be important, they are not necessary for an economy to be highly productive in producing goods and services.
So that says that it's directly not determinate, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you got it.
Yeah. So I can see where your answer would make more sense for this question because it's a conservation question, but I just feel like A is kind of stated by the book as well. But I guess that doesn't necessarily mean anything about our conservation of natural resources.
Yeah, and I'm confused.
I guess it's not really related. So I would say more likely C would be the correct answer.
Oh, here, this is actually, yeah. This is from the notes section of the PowerPoint. I just noticed this too. It says, in a market economy, scarcity is reflected in market prices. If the world were running out of natural resources, the prices of those resources would be rising, but in fact, they are not. The prices of most natural resources are stable or falling. It appears that our ability to conserve these resources is growing more rapidly than their supplies are dwindling.
Okay. All right.
So that's why. I don't know. Now I'm torn.
We'll go with C on that because I think C makes more sense conservation wise. So I think the book makes the statement of A, but I think that's not really a direct influence on conservation necessarily. I
Yeah,
think that's more of a
actually what it
statement
should
that
be.
it's just possible to produce well without natural resources, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has anything to do with us conserving them. So we'll put C on that one.
Perfect.
All right, so number 10 is the next one that I got different. I put C on 10 and you put D, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me read the question real quick. So country A has twice as many workers as country B. Country A also has twice as much physical capital, twice as much human capital, and access to twice as many natural resources. Assuming constant returns to scale, which of the following is higher in country A? Oh. Yeah, that's totally not neither. Because they have the advantage in pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they should
Yeah,
have
and
a
I thought it
higher.
was, yeah, so I thought it would be productivity because I had a little bit of an issue understanding productivity, but if it, I would think, so I thought for some reason productivity is like a measure of your total output. So I thought that country A would have more productivity simply because it outputs more, but the output per worker doesn't change because
Mhm.
they're only double country B. So they're not per worker, they're not producing more, but their productivity is higher. If that makes sense.
So it should be both output per worker. Well, what did you say it was? What did you pick?
So I picked C because I think it's definitely not output per worker because it says country A has twice as much um, physical capital, twice as many workers, twice as many human capital. So to me, it sounds like their production per worker is doubled out of country B, but their workforce is also double. So that kind of negates it. So their output per worker should be roughly equal to country B.
See, I don't know, because I would interpret that as being, they have twice as much human capital, which can be constant if you keep. How am I trying to word this? They get more out of each worker that they have, regardless of how many workers they have.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
that would be both output per worker and productivity. But I also see what you're saying. Do you want to go with C for this one?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I do think they'll get more out of each next worker, but I think like it sounds like the units that an individual worker is producing is the same
Mm-hmm.
in both countries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay.
I think, yeah. All right. What's the next one, my friend?
Okay. So then, what did you put on 11?
11, I had D.
Okay, I had D as well. I wrote a period, and I wasn't sure if that was me marking it as a question mark. All right, so 12, I got different. What'd you put on 12?
12, I have B's and boy. But that one I have a question mark next to.
Okay, so if the number of workers in an economy doubled, all other inputs stayed the same, and there were constant returns to scale, productivity would.
And the reason I said it would fall is because you doubled the amount of workers, but the returns didn't increase. And so the productivity per worker went down because double the amount of workers yields the same amount of product. Like it should yield more if you're doubling the workers, but it didn't. And so I said it fell.
Okay.
As for why it would be greater than 1/2, I don't know. What do you think? Also, remember I have a C plus on the first exam.
You what?
I have a C on the exam, the first exam.
Oh yeah. I think I got about that as well or something. Let me see. So I had put A, but this was one I kind of guessed on as well. So
And see, I'm torn between A and B.
yeah. So Yeah, so it would definitely fall because the inputs stay the same. So even
and the outputs,
what was that?
the returns, they stay the same. So like double the amount of workers produce the same amount as the original amount of people.
Mm.
So it's definitely falling.
Yeah, so I'm just not sure if it falls to less than 1/2 or greater than 1/2. I don't know if there's a way we could do that. I guess the reason that I thought it would be less than 1/2 is just because I thought it would fall to at least 1/2 if you doubled the amount of workers, but their output stayed the same.
Trying to search the PowerPoint. Get the textbook up.
What was that?
Do you have the textbook open?
Yeah, I do.
Because I'm looking for something that relates to this in the PowerPoint.
I know that there's the production function. I don't know if we could put like a random number in there.
I'm thinking it's fall, but by less than half, because it would be more than half if it increased by more than half. I think, right?
Mm-hmm. So the only thing I can find in the production function is doubling of inputs, but we don't have a doubling of an input. We just have a doubling of a workforce.
Right. I'm going to still say it would still be greater than 1/2 of its former value. I think I'm comfortable with B. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean,
Some of these are so tricky.
I'd like to plug it into an actual equation because there's got to be a little bit more to it. The way I'm thinking of it is, say, for example, we had 5 workers, and from the 5 workers, they produce like 10 units. So then their output per worker. Oh, wait. Wait a minute. What's the definition for productivity again?
So it's measured in terms of the rate of output per unit of input.
Output per unit of input. Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm still feeling B.
Because if they put in, so back to that producing 10 units, then so if we doubled the workforce from 5 to 10, then that would take units per worker from 2 down to 1.
Right.
And that's why I feel like it should fall to exactly 1/2. So I'm a little bit confused in terms of how it would be greater or less than 1/2, I guess.
I guess if they were just slightly more productive, then it would end up being greater than. Because it would be unlikely for them to be less productive than that, would it? It already went down by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really loose way to think about it. It's just a tricky worded question.
Yeah, we'll go with B. I just really don't understand how it would be anything other than 1/2 on this one.
Right, and now I'm gonna feel bad if it's
or greater. I feel like it should be exactly 1/2.
Mm-hmm.
But all right. So yeah, we'll put B on that one.
Alrighty, that was 12.
Okay, so 13. Okay, 13 is another one. So I put A on 13.
13
So
I put C.
higher real GDP per person. Okay, so this is the equation I just used. Did you do just the equation she gave us? Hold on, let me get to it. In her weekly letter out to all of us. Did you do that equation as well?
I didn't see that.
Okay, here I'll share my screen real quick so you can see. Okay, so she sent us out. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she sent us out this lesson 8 information here, and then down at the very bottom she said some help in preparing for the group 8 quiz, and then she had the help for number 6 and then help for number 13, and she said for this one you will calculate both productivity, which is our GDP per work hours, and our GDP per capita, which is our GDP per population. This should make the comparison relatively simple. So I did that with the real GDP. Well, let me get back here because it's asking for real GDP. So I did it as if real GDP was what they produced final goods. For the hours, divided it by the amount of hours for workland, and then the amount of hours with the final goods for laborland. So I got for their real GDP per working hours 28,000 for workland, and then 15,000 for laborland. So that's how I did this equation or this problem. I was a little bit like confused on what she meant by RGDP, but that's what I used was this final goods right here is the RGDP, then divided by
RGDP is just real, right?
What was that?
RGDP is just the real GDP, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So by those numbers, Workland has a higher productivity and a higher real GDP, right?
Let me see if that's what I put. Yeah, so that's what I put. I put A on that. Do you want to double check the math on there?
I'm going to do that real quick.
Okay. And did you find that equation she gave us?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got it right here.
Okay. And I'll stop sharing my screen here. Here we go. Okay.
What did you say Workland has for productivity? We said higher, right?
Yeah, so because I got per hour was 28,000, and then for laborland 15,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, and speaking of this, now I think you are right on B on 12.
Why is that?
He does it per working hours, so it should, these workers from number 12 should finish what they're producing quicker. So that's why it would be greater than 1/2, because their hours should decrease.
So here is, hang on, let me make sure I wrote this out right. 224,000 divided by what, 7,000 times 8. It's going to be equal to 224,000 divided by 56,000, which is 4. The labor land is 105,000 divided by 3,000 times 7, which is 105,000 divided by 21,000. It's 5. Okay, so workland has a lower productivity.
Okay.
Labor
Oh.
land has a higher.
Okay.
And then let's do real GDP. Workland GDP is going to be 224,000 divided by 10,000 people. That's 22.4. Okay, labor land would be 105,000 divided by 5,000. That's 21. So workland has a higher GDP. Is that an option? So higher productivity for labor land, but higher real GDP for workland. That's what I got.
Higher real GDP for workland.
Yeah. But higher, so lower productivity for workland, but a higher real GDP.
Yeah, so number C.
Does that make sense? That's just...
Yeah, so this is what I'm confused about is, so is that what we do is take the hours times the number of workers to get the working hours?
For productivity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of the whole population.
Okay.
At least that's just how I interpreted it. What do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, I just saw that they worked 8 hours a day, so I just used 8 hours. But yeah, I guess that would make sense for working hours. Because it would have been a total of 8 hours per 7,000. So yeah, we can go with C.
Do you think C is good?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna feel bad. I'm gonna feel so bad if that's not right. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
There you go. Okay, 14 we both got C, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 15B.
Yep. No, I have D for 15.
You had D for 15?
Yeah,
okay.
Let me read it real quick.
So I got B on it. Let's see what it says there.
And my logic is, so all the smart people are leaving, and so their human capital is going down, but they have to hire more people. Well, wait a second. Physical capital per worker wouldn't necessarily just mean more people, would it?
Well, that's what I'm just double checking because what you just said makes sense to me. But let me see. So physical capital per worker says the stock of equipment and structures used to produce GNS is called physical capital, denoted K.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it basically like what a worker is worth, or is that human capital?
Human capital is knowledge and skills workers acquire. I don't know what actual workers are.
I think it's physical.
Because it sounds like physical is just saying that it's stock of equipment and structures.
So the tools that they use, the buildings they have.
Yeah, it's more so equipment than it is personnel. Because they show a physical capital denoted as K, and then there's capital per worker still. So I don't know. Yeah.
So maybe
it makes sense to me that they would hire more people. Just depends on what the definition of physical, I guess, is.
What are those physical people if those people are taking their tools with them?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. To me, that sounds like physical capital should actually just
stay the same.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's physical capital per worker. So, and it says in the short term. So it is going to increase for a little bit, actually.
So the human capital per worker will decrease, but the physical capital will increase.
Human capital is the skills that they acquire. So you're right. You're correct on 15. Even if it's not necessarily for the reason you thought, Michael. Just kidding.
No, you know what? It's funny you say that because I was just looking at that question like, what did I do?
Yeah.
So thank you
I
for helping
mean,
me.
you saw that before in the reading, but it's really hard to find some of these things again.
I just don't like the online textbook. It's kind of horrible.
Yeah. It's nicer to have something you can flip the pages on and know where it's at. You get lost pretty easy in an online because it's just you're clicking.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, question 15 is definitely D.
All right.
Okay, 16 I got different as well. I put D on 16, and I thought this was a textbook answer I found. What did you get on 16?
D like dog.
D like dog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got the same one. I must have just heard you wrong.
Yeah, I probably said it like B.
You're good.
16 is D.
All right, 17 I had different as well. I put A. What did you put for 17?
17 I put B.
Okay.
So let me see. Other things the same. If the country raises its saving rate, when is the growth of real GDP per person higher? So for this one, I had as it moves towards the long run, but not in the long run. And I wish I knew why I had that, because I wish I would have done this today instead of last week or earlier in the week. Let me try to find that real quick. I will defend my answer.
Saving because, yeah. So this is the only thing I was going off of, was under saving and investment. It says, if today the economy produces a large quantity of new capital goods, then tomorrow it will have a larger stack or a larger stock of capital and be able to produce more goods and services.
And so in the PowerPoint, it says in the long run, living standards are determined by productivity alone. And so that's why I said it will, it'll do it as it moves towards the long run, but not in the long run. That was just my thought process. But
Right. And this I think is a little bit funny wording here, because it says if today the economy produces a large quantity of new capital goods, then tomorrow it will have a larger stock of capital and be able to produce more goods and services. So it sounds like it's producing a large quantity the day before and then, producing goods and services again the next day. Oh, but I guess it is saying capital goods.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to produce capital goods first.
Yeah.
And then goods and services second, which would be your real GDP. So it's okay. Yeah. So that makes sense to me, Michael, what you put on there. So it'll be B, right? As the economy moves towards the long run, but not in the long run.
But not in the long run.
Okay.
That was just the way I thought about it.
Or wait. Just to make sure we're clear, would it be the inverse of that statement that it would be in the long run, but not towards the long run? That sounds a little bit funny to me, because ultimately what it's saying is in the future productivity will increase, but not now. So are we saying that now is in the long run or moving towards the long run?
In the long run, living standards are determined by productivity. One of these determinants, policies that affect the determinants of productivity will therefore affect the next generation's living standards. So one of these determinants is saving.
So would that be in the long run, but not as it moves towards the long run?
I guess it would be.
I hope I'm not making this too confusing. There's too much to me that sounds similar in this question.
I know, it's ridiculous.
But to me, that kind of sounds like it would be in the long run. So in the future, their production is higher, but at the moment it's lower.
Right.
Which I think would be, so toward the long run, it's lower, but in the long run, it's higher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you agree with that, or so would we be on this one?
Yeah, it would be C.
Okay. Wow.
We came
too much long run.
Right?
Yeah. Why can't they use the word future or something?
Right? Because it's economics, it has to be confusing.
Yeah. All right. 18, I put B, and that's what you put as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 19. What did you put for 19?
D.
G. Okay, I put, wait, you did put D, D as in dog?
Yeah.
I put D as well, but I had a question mark on this one, which is why I wanted to review it. I couldn't find the specific answer. I just knew that it wasn't B or C,
So
and it had to be either A or D. So
right. In coastal areas, that's just kind of random. It doesn't really. The reason I thought inward oriented is because inward oriented involves not trading with other people.
yeah, I guess that would be the opposite of free trade.
Right. And so that's why I thought, okay, so that's not going to be rapid economic growth there.
Okay, I think you're right on that one. And then question 20, what did you put on that one?
A.
A. Was this one that was in the book?
Yes, I just can't remember where it was.
Okay. I was trying to put this one, and I think I just guessed with B. I couldn't find it, so.
B is more like a tariff. C is also a tariff, and D would make sense as well. But it says at the very least, and maintaining property rights and ownership is really, really important to economics. I remember that from micro. I don't know why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I hope that's right, because if it's not, I'm going to feel so bad.
No, you're good. That makes sense to me. Like I said, I guessed on it. So, all right. Let's go ahead and submit this then. Or was there any other ones that you wanted to go over? I think that was it.
Pretty much it.
Okay.
And submit. And I got an 18 out of 20.
Not bad.
I wish it would tell us what we got wrong.
I know, right? Would be.
Hey, that is a solid 90%.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you got 18? I must have marked something wrong then, because I got a 17. My bad. Yeah. I thought we went through and put all the same.
I thought we did too.
Maybe I accidentally clicked B on number 20. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Oh, well.
I'm so sorry.
85% is good, too. All right.
That's okay. I'll post this in the discussion, and I think I spelled your last name right. Geurts, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, man. Enjoy your Halloween.
All right, you too. Thanks, Michael.
My pleasure. See you next week.
See ya.